not a dominant 7th, in which case it would be a 5/7 of a 7th.
5/7/4 in those cases.
With a B flat?
Yeah, but we couldn't get that to work out before.
It's C, well, you're in the key of C, so you're in F, the F, A, C, C, E, G, B flat.
No, May told us we didn't, May said that B flat didn't work. You know what I mean, May? Anyway.
She walks
I told
in.
you it was a dominant 7, but then it just makes no sense why it doesn't go to where it was again.
Oh.
No, it goes to 4.
No, it does. Yeah, it
Yes, it
does,
does.
but there's a 2/6 in between. Anyway, and the other one was, why do the chords cross bar lines? Is that not a no-no?
No.
I don't know.
Where do they
It's
cross?
been in music everywhere.
No, we're not supposed to cross bar lines, are we?
Where? What measure or what?
Let's say the third,
Second
fourth
system, between the first and second measure.
No, third system. The second system is
yeah.
fine, we have an inversion.
Oh, okay.
The third
Well, this-
system from the first to the second
Well,
measure.
just in the first system and the third and fourth measure. What happens all the time in choir singing.
Yeah, in here, they did it as a syncopation, so you're going right back where I started from. So they're actually anticipating the chord. So it has to do with the rhythm more than, if they do it once, they'll have to do it more than once. And you said where, because I was talking about second system.
Oh, third system when it goes from the first to the second.
Right. Same thing. Okay, hold on, let me back up a little. Last year, when we talked about harmonic rhythm, we talked about, okay, when a piece starts with a certain chords changing in certain places, it usually continues. I don't know if you remember, but, or maybe I didn't mention it, but I said, if you have an odd harmonic rhythm, you could get by with it if you used it all the time. And I usually use, for an example, Yellow Submarine by the Beatles, because the harmonic rhythm, it has a chord for 3 beats and then 1 beat at the end, which is kind of odd. And that's an odd thing, but if you listen to the song, it does it all the way through. So after a while, you not only get used to it, but you expect it. So in this case, that's what's happening. They're using syncopation for rhythm. So at one point, they anticipate the chord change on the 4th beat and carry it over to the next measure. And then one system later, they do the same thing with a different chord. So the reason they get by with it is because they're doing it more than once. They're actually, when you hear it the second time, your memory goes, yeah, I heard that before. So you are correct, we're not supposed to do that. But the exception would be if you set up a pattern that does it. So I would say changing a chord on the Te of 1 only would be bad. But if you did it every measure, they would probably call it jazz. I mean, it would set up a pattern. Okay, other questions?
Measure 46.
What's the problem?
That is
I thought it was a
the
German
easiest one, but it's the
6.
simplest one of all.
I thought it was a German 6, but there's not the A flat.
So it's not a German.
So it's not a German 6.
No, you're right.
We guessed that it was a 7 or 7 of 5.
Doesn't measure 47. You have a first beat.
7 or 7.
It would be a 7-minute 7 of 5. The only thing is it's an inverted, so 7 diminished 2 of 5.
So that's a 5, 7, or 4 in the
So
second
what's the
measure.
third
Hold on,
beat?
I'm sorry, hold on.
On measure
Go back to, you said 46? I'm sorry, Chris, you're on
Yes.
46? Okay. So if you spell it in thirds, F sharp, A, C, E flat.
See, that's why the F sharp with the E flat,
That's the difference.
but yeah.
Only
no,
diminished 7th chord. They're all
Yeah.
minor thirds. So the E flat's in the bass, that makes it 7 diminished 2. And then the F sharp leads to something with G in the root. So if we're in the key of C, that would be dominant. So it's a 7 diminished 2 of 5. Okay, and then who is the next question?
Third beat in measure 46. 6.
Okay, so third beat. Now that one really doesn't make any sense because no matter how we stack it. Let's see.
That's
Yeah.
what I decided, but then how can we have a diminished going to a diminished?
Oh, hold on. We have a B, an F sharp, an A, the A, E flat still B flat. So the only way to stack it looks like it's quintal, looks like it's built in fifths. That doesn't make any sense. So when you see a chord that doesn't make any sense, when you have all four tones and you count second and thirds, what does that mean? What would your next step be to guess?
Stacking.
Non-chord tone.
Non-chord tone.
The B as a neighbor tone.
Yeah, if you can throw one of them out and have a chord, that's your best guess for a non-chord tone. Now, which you say you throw out
The
the
B.
B.
B, so it's still.
It's the
It's
same
the
chord.
same chord.
And now, does the B make sense as a non-chord tone?
Yes.
It's a neighbor tone. So without that, we've really got the same thing.
Oh.
The B, so you have your A, and then it moves up to a B, and then back down, so to the A.
Okay, so Dr. Matthews, the
Yeah.
other thing was, the first system, the second measure,
First system, second measure, yeah.
because we have it 5, 7,
Mhm.
4,
Neighbor tone.
but then it doesn't go to a 4, it goes to a 2, we have 2, 6 on 35.
I love this part. Okay. Now,
6,
first of all,
35.
can you give me the right inversion? So this is measure 24.
Third.
34, 24,
Wait.
You don't
What
have
beat?
that.
Oh, 34.
First beat?
Yes.
Okay, the second measure, 34, sorry. You said it was a 5.
7,
Okay, and now, well, what's in the base?
A G.
the G.
So
And
what was
it's 2BD, so it's your favorite.
No, it's not 2BD. I don't see a D.
Yeah,
G,
G,
B
B.
flat.
G, B.
It is a dominant 7, but the G's not the root. It's just the base.
C, E, G, B flat.
Yeah, C, E, G, B flat. So that's a 5,
7 was.
not 7.
4 3s.
4, 3 of
4.
4. Now, you're saying, but it goes to a 2, 6, and then it goes to the 4. So there are two different ways you can talk your way out of this. Here's the second best way. Not the best way, but the second best way. Is you could say it's 5, 4, 3, 4, and it goes to 4, but they insert another chord there. Now, that's not the best way to say it, but it does actually go to 4. Chris?
Could you make the D a neighbor
That's
tone?
the best way to do it.
Woohoo!
Now, I was trying to give you a hint the other day when I said the melody is the second voice from the top. That's the
Man.
tenor. So California, here I come. So that here, that D, that's the melody. So if you make that a non-chord tone, even though it actually forms a 2-6 there, it makes more sense to say it's a 4, because then you have a 5, 4, 3 of 4 going to 4, but with one non-chord tone. So in other words, let's see, we're going California, here I, it's a non-chord tone there. Instead of here I come. See, when we try to change chords there, the harmonic rhythm looks really strange. It's
But it's actually an implied 4, right? Because there's no C.
The 5, 7.
well, but when you have a non-chord tone, like a suspension, when the suspension goes from 4 to 3, there's no 3. So when the non-chord tone resolves to the chord tone, that's where you say, there's the C. So I would not count this wrong if you had said it was a 2-6, because that's, if you spell it all out, that's a 2-6. The thing that gives you, there are two things that would give you the hint. One, if you heard it, you wouldn't really hear a 2-6, you'd hear a 4 with a non-chord tone. But the other is this, it sets you up so well with this dominant 7th of the 4 that that's probably why you hear a 4. And it's, I think, a very interesting thing in music, because you can say, look, scientifically, put this under a microscope, that's a 2-6, it's got all the right tones, but that's not what you hear. And if it's not what you hear, then we analyze music to to prove